Hello, trumpet players. I used to do a series that I called, I don't remember, something like Behind the Wheel or something like that. And the idea was that I would show up to my gigs early, as I always do. Show up to the gigs early and sit in the car and tell you what's on my mind. And in the early days, I did this and made it a special. You had to be, they weren't, how do you, on YouTube you have public, you have private, and then you have unlisted. And all of these behind the wheels back in those days were unlisted. And you had to go to my website to get to them. It was a way to encourage people to go to my website. I would like to start these again now that I'm playing gigs again. But I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I will publish them so that everybody can see them. And this is not the thought I want to share with you today, but I'm tired. Really. I'm tired of all the nonsense that social media has become, you know? And I never really did much of it, but that was about the worst that I ever did. Trying to manipulate people to go to my website by giving them quote-unquote exclusive content. And I'm not going to say I regret doing that. It's still a lot more innocent than what most people are trying to do to you, right? So I don't feel that bad about it. I'm tired of all that nonsense. I'm tired of it being aimed at me constantly. I'm tired of being made to sound like I'm somehow not doing it right if I'm not doing it to you. I'm tired of all that nonsense. I really am. We live in that world, but that doesn't mean, there's people out there that they say, well, this is just the way it is. This is the new world that we live in. And that's how you do it. No, the truths that are true are always true. Okay? Stuff that is wrong is always wrong. And new fads don't change that. It's wrong to try to manipulate people. It is wrong to manipulate people. And all those social media tricks, that's what they're for. What's the most common one? Clickbait. I don't know if you've noticed, I don't do clickbait. I give you, what I do is the title of my video is what it is. You don't have to click through to see what it is. If the way I see it is, if I title my video properly and it doesn't apply to you, then I've been successful. If it doesn't apply to you, then you're not supposed to click through. But in social media world, the whole idea is to make you click through, even if it doesn't apply to you at all. Let me adjust this so it doesn't shake. Oh my, okay. How's that? Anyway, so let's talk about what's on my mind. That's what these behind the wheel videos are for. I'm not going to call it a behind the wheel video, but I'm behind the wheel. So the idea is I'm on the road driving to the gig. And this normally happens when I have no radio on. and my thoughts go wild, and I start thinking about stuff. And what's on my mind today? The fact that I'm gigging again. Now, let me give you a little bit of background. I stopped taking gigs in November of 2023. My last gig, I had made the decision to stop taking gigs late October, I think. And I was going to finish off the gigs I had in the book. And I had a gig in November, late November, with David Caceres. He had a big band gig. It was actually a concert, and we don't do a lot of those. But he had a big band concert up north of Houston, and I actually played lead on that. It was miserable. Why did I quit taking gigs? Because I was sick. I had heart issues. I didn't know that the heart issues were because of my kidneys. But I was bloated at the time. My body was full of water. I thought that was from the heart, because when you have heart damage. Now, I won't go into why I didn't go to the hospital. That's private. It's not part of the story, so don't even ask. Okay? I will say that it was probably not the best idea to not go to the hospital. I ended up going into the hospital in an emergency. Thank God I had insurance, and it was good insurance. Anyway, so yes, I did my last gig, played lead on it. I don't think I played badly, but it wasn't my best work, which is bad enough, right? I did have another gig in the books already with Richard Brown. By that time, Richard Brown had already been in the hospital and wasn't doing any of his own gigs. His son took over, and I didn't know that, actually. So anyway, I had this last Richard Brown gig in February. It confirmed that I shouldn't be taking gigs. Now, I did take my own gigs because I have control over that. I hope that makes sense. I did have a few gigs with my own band. I did have a few gigs with me as a soloist. I even had an out-of-town gig, but I'm going to tell you, I probably shouldn't have even done any of that. I remember that out-of-town gig I did. It was in Dallas. Now, driving was never a problem. Well, except for going over overpasses. I thought I was having panic attacks over the overpasses. In fact, that's the very first symptom I had. The very first symptom I had, long before any chest pain, long before any of that stuff, the very first symptom I had, I had a gig in northeast of Houston, out in the boondocks. It was a very weird gig with the grooves. It was out in the country, so that they weren't subjected to laws, and there was nudity. And if I had known what kind of gig it was, I would not have taken the gig. It was a running group that likes to party, that they party first and run second. That I went to their website. They are a almost hedonistic. And when I use the word hedonistic, I'm talking about the true sense of the word hedonistic, where pleasure and pain are right and wrong. That's what hedonism is. It's almost like a religion. It's a philosophy, but it's almost like a religion where what is right and wrong is determined by whether you have pleasure or pain. So a lot of people are hedonistic. In fact, there's such a thing, I looked it up, there's such a thing as hedonistic Christians, where their whole Christianity belief is based on what brings people pain, that would be the sin, and what brings people pleasure, that would be the blessing, or whatever you want to call it. Let me say this now. That's not the Christianity I'm part of, okay? I am not a hedonistic Christian. Anyway, but I'm trying to explain to you. Anyway, so I had this gig, and because it was northeast of Houston in the boondocks, I went from my house on Beltway 8 up over the ship channel. They've got this bridge that's got a real high, tight incline, right? And this was the very first symptom I had. I went, as I was ascending up that bridge, I had a panic attack. What I thought was a panic attack. It was actually the arrhythmia, what's it called? Arrhythmia is the category of heart conditions, and then this is one of them, AFib. I had AFib. But I thought it was the first time, so I just thought it was a panic attack. And it scared me. It freaked me out. That particular symptom where I'm going up over a bridge didn't go away until I had my kidneys, until I got on dialysis. Once I got on dialysis, they got my hemoglobin back up. I never had another one of those episodes again. But, so like I do this thing in the summer. I did take the Galveston Beach Band. I know that sounds inconsistent. I took the Beach Band gig because I was certain that I was going to be better by that time. I was working on my health. And I was certain, I was so convinced that I was going to have this whole problem fixed by the summer that I took the gig. And Galveston Beach Band was always such an easy gig. It's like high school level music. And I was playing second part. Why couldn't I just take that gig? Well, this thing going over overpasses and stuff like that got to be so bad that I would have to pull over and rest 2 or 3 times on the way to Galveston. It's just a 45-minute drive. And I would have to pull over 2 or 3 times. Then when I got to Galveston, the parking lot is only like 50 yards. Where I park is only 50 yards from the bandstand, the gazebo. And I had to rest carrying my equipment. That 50 yards, I had to rest 2 or 3 times. And so I'm just giving you an idea of how sick I was. And it was wrong for me to take any gigs during that time. It really was. Now that I look back. But there was, I think the reason I took the gigs is because in my mind, and they say when you have kidney problems, your mind is, the one nephrologist says, you become loopy. That's what she said. She was an African woman, and she says, you get loopy. Loopy in the head. And so in my mind, and this is my optimism taking over, in my mind, I was getting better. And the truth was the opposite. I was getting worse and worse and worse. But because of my overwhelming optimism and my mental state, I didn't see that I was getting worse. I only saw the improvements. The little, it's like confirmation bias, right? Every time I saw something that showed that I was making progress, I latched on to that. Not sure why I'm telling you all of that, but yeah, this is what I went through. That's how sick I was. I was not taking gigs. The only time I took a gig is if I thought that it was easy enough that it wouldn't push me over the edge. Because I did have some gigs that did push me over the edge, where I had heart trouble through the gig. Now, that heart trouble was because of the kidneys. The kidneys are what tell your bones to make hemoglobin. So because my kidneys weren't doing that, I was anemic, I think, increasingly over a period of 5 years. So, now, I know I've spoken for 16 minutes, almost 17 minutes, on what got me there. That's the background. Went to the hospital. When I checked in, I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. The more I learned about it, I realized it wasn't a heart attack. It was the effects of not enough. I guess they broadened the name of the definition of heart attack so much now. Maybe that's considered a type of heart attack, but it's not what we think when we say heart attack. The hemoglobin isn't providing oxygen to the heart because the hemoglobin is so low. It's basically the same as if the artery is clogged. It's the same end result. Oxygen is not getting to the heart. It's the same end result. But the hemoglobin is what's causing it in my case. If you're a kidney patient, that's what was causing it. And yes, my strength was going down. The worst part of that for playing was the fact that my lungs were filling up with fluid. When that very last hospital visit, they told me, now I don't know if I was hearing them wrong, because it doesn't sound right to me. It really doesn't sound right to me. They said my lungs were 90% full of water. And I was operating on 10% capacity. So, let me get to the point here. I'm so happy to be playing again. On the way here, I'm like, I told you guys in this video not long ago that I don't like to play lead. I don't get the same pleasure out of playing high notes that lead players get. And that was true. But I'm playing lead now in the Galveston Beach Band, and it makes me so happy. It makes me so happy. Not because I'm playing lead. It's not the high notes that makes me happy. It's the quality of what I'm putting out. I'm trying not to cry. The quality of what I'm putting out. I love excellence. I really do. I love excellence. And when you're sick, it's so hard to be excellent. Huh? And, I went to a jam session. It was a week ago today. This is Sunday morning. I went to a jam session. I played 4 songs. It was with my friend Woody Witt. That's the best jazz I've ever played in my whole life. Oh, and I walked out of there happy. Huh? And this is the only time I will ever use that word happy. I don't like happy. I don't like what that word has done to people in our society. I don't like the way we pursue happiness because it's almost evil, right? So when I talk about happiness, I say happiness is an emotion and it's fleeting. It comes, it goes. I enjoy it when it's there. But I'm going to tell you, aside from the day I married my wife, aside from the day my son was born, those are obviously at the top. So I'm not going to say I'm happier now than I've been in my whole life, because those other things were obviously made me much more happy, right? But yeah, to have the ability again to deliver excellence, that has made me happy. And I'll enjoy that for as long as it's there. I do not pursue happiness. When I pursue excellence, it's for its own sake. Kind of. Maybe there's more to it than just that. But the point I'm making is that I don't pursue excellence so that I can be happy. But when I do achieve excellence in my performance, of course that makes me happy. And I'm going to enjoy every moment of that as I can. And so, yes, that's where I'm at right now. You can't imagine how it feels to slowly struggle more and more and more until just playing 8 measures becomes a task, a chore, an effort. Just getting the notes out for 8 measures. So, yes, these are the moments that that make music worth it, These are the moments that make music worthwhile. This is what, not for the happiness, don't get me wrong. This is the human story. How we, the rags to riches kind of thing. This is the human story. We strive, we struggle, we combat adversity. Then we get our rewards. And I'm going to tell you that, I recognize Jesus, the Holy Spirit, God, the Trinity, right? I recognize their fingerprint in all of this. I look back at those times. Now, yes, I screwed up. You know, the Bible says that in our weakness, God has strength. In our weakness is his strength. And, you know, I don't want to say any of that stuff that's so cliche. God, this sickness brought me closer to God. I don't see it that way. God was always close. People who are always talking about, I need to get closer to God, he is right there. Right? There's not far to go. It's not. When we think of God in terms of distance, there's no distance. When there's a perceived distance, it's because you've shut him out. He's still right there. You're trying to ignore him, you know? Anyway, I didn't mean for this to be a religious thing, but how do you talk about something that significant without giving credit where credit's due? I think I would be dead right now if it wasn't for him. It wasn't for Jesus, the grace we get from Jesus. I screwed up. I didn't even know it, right? I was on death's, what do they call that? What's the term that they say? Death's doorstep or something like that. I was right there. And it may not have looked like that to people in my videos. Here's something about me, my personality, that I'll share with you. I don't talk about my troubles while I have them. I can't talk about my troubles. I'm an INTP. The work happens here. I have to shut myself off from other people. That's how I operate. I shut myself off from other people, and I build this world inside my head. Classic INTP stuff, right? I have this whole thing going on in my head. And while I'm working through problems, it's in here. I only share them when the problem has been solved. That's the only time. So yes, now officially that problem has been solved. I'm back to health again. I'm back to excellence. That's I should call the video that, back to excellence. Back to excellence. And I'm almost certain that it was the low hemoglobin that caused most of my problems. I'm almost certain of it. Anyway, that's what I have to share for you, with you. There's people that say, oh, I have such a passion for music. I've never had that. I've never had that. I don't even know what that feels like, a passion for music. What I have is a passion for excellence. Really. And the reason I do music, and I don't talk about this often enough, the reason I do music is because that's what God told me when I was in 7th grade. God told me. Yes, I've been listening to God for that long. I got saved in 1st grade or something like that. I started hearing from God, I don't know, 6th grade or something. God told me when I lived in Hawaii in 7th grade that for as long as His love shines through my music, He will take care of all my earthly needs. I don't tell that story often enough, but yes, I was in a very terrible state of turmoil in Hawaii. Some of the worst years of my life. If you want to know about it, look up online. Now that Google tries to squash these stories, but there was this thing called Kill Holiday, and it was the people try to say that it's the fact check, right? There was no Kill Holiday. Nobody was ever killed on Kill Holiday, right? It's not Kill Holiday in the sense of someone dying. It's Kill Holiday as in the sense of really messing somebody up, beating them up. I got beat up so many times in Hawaii, and I'm absolutely certain it was because I was already saved and I misunderstood what it meant to turn the other cheek. I never fought back, and I was an easy target. And yes, I got beat up all the time. Literally all the time. Let's say 4 or 5 times a week for 2 years. And it was me exercising my faith when I was being beat up. I kind of saw myself as a martyr, and I took it on as my cross to bear. Now I don't see it like that. I won't go into how I do see it, but now I don't see it like that. But yes, for me, there was never a passion for music. For me, my choice to be in music came from what God told me that time in Hawaii. For as long, and you know what? How do I know it was really God? Because it's been true. This is what I've striven for through my whole career, is for God's love to shine through my music. That's where I've been this whole time. This is what my whole desire is. God's love for you through my music. I'm going to say that one more time. God's love for you being channeled through my music. That's what my whole music career is. You want to sum it up in one sentence? That's my career as a musician. God's love for you through my music. So no, I don't have a passion for music. When I was sick, I actually prayed to God and said to Him, if you want me to quit, just tell me, I'll quit like that. And I mentioned in the most recent Q&A, that I oscillate. It happens less often, but when I first started, I used to want to quit 4 or 5 times a day. And I said that fixing the problem is something like that. I said something about how the reason I didn't quit was because of something I did. But you know what? Now that I'm saying this now, I really think that's probably the biggest reason why I didn't quit, because that's my whole career. It's not something, It's not about how good I am, although I do enjoy excellence. But think about that, right? What is excellence in music to me? If that's what my career is, what is that? Excellence in music is excellence in God's love for you. That's why it makes me so happy. Because of the service, my musical service that I render is of the highest quality. The musical love that I'm expressing to you is of the highest quality. That's my source of pride. That's my source of happiness, is God's love being excellently expressed through my music. Right? And you know what? I don't care what people say. Maybe they think I'm a lunatic or something. God's love has guided me through my whole life. Even through the sickness. Yes, I should have probably heard from God and not gotten sick in the first place. I know what that looks like. I'm not an idiot. But we are where we are, when we are, in that moment. Anyway, I didn't plan for this to go so long. I need to get in there. Thanks for hearing what I had to say about this. And I'll be posting this. It's 36 minutes, so it might take like 2 hours or more to upload, even on my fancy internet. We got fiber a few months ago, and it's much faster, but it still takes a long time to get uploaded from my phone. Anyway, God bless you guys. I'm gonna go make some jazz for a jazz brunch. This is a jazz brunch at a very fancy restaurant. Anyway, I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you. God bless you.